This unit is on the nervous system. The nervous system is divided into two divisions. We have the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Overall, the functions of the nervous system are sensory input, which monitors internal and external stimuli, integration, which interprets that sensory input, and then motor output, which responds to stimuli by activating effector organs. The cells of the nervous system are neurons, and they have different parts to them, which make them very specialized cells. Dendrites receive electrical impulses either from the environment or from other neurons. The cell body, also called the soma, is what contains the organelles and most of the cytoplasm of the cell. The axon is the long tail of the neuron, and it transmits the electrical impulse. The axon itself has some different components to it. The myelin sheath are beads of insulation on the axon that speeds the transmission of an impulse. The more myelin sheathing on the axon, the faster the electrical impulse can travel. Nodes of Ranvier are gaps in between the myelin sheathing. The electrical impulse actually jumps over the myelin sheathing from one node to another. And then finally, at the end of the axon are the axon terminals. These release neurotransmitters into the synapse. Myelin sheathing allows the impulse to jump more quickly from node to node. Myelination begins 1 to 2 months prior to birth, and it peaks in the first 2 years of postnatal life. After peak myelination, myelin remodeling continues through life. With aging, the myelin sheaths exhibit degenerative changes. It slows the conduction velocity. It can disrupt normal timing in neural pathways, and such changes can also lead to cognitive decline. Synapses are the space between neurons. So neurons do not touch each other. Instead, the neural impulse that is traveling from one neuron to another has to pass over a synapse. So the electrical signal must be changed to a chemical signal and then back to an electrical signal again. So a synapse is surrounded by the presynaptic neuron. So pre means before. So this is before the synapse. And this conducts impulses toward the synapse through the release of neurotransmitters. So that would be the electrical signal of the presynaptic neuron is being changed to the chemical signal, which are the neurotransmitters. The postsynaptic neuron is after the synapse. Post means after. And so this transmits impulses away from the synapse by absorbing the neurotransmitters. So that would be those chemical neurotransmitter signals being absorbed and then changing back to an electrical signal that'll be transmitted on that postsynaptic neuron. After the impulse is transferred, the neurotransmitters are removed from the synapse. There's two ways that this can happen. They can be taken up by the presynaptic neuron and go back into vesicles to be used again when there's another impulse that needs to be transmitted, or they could be cleared out of the synapse and destroyed by enzymes. So either way, they need to be removed. If they were to stay within the synapse, they're going to keep signaling the postsynaptic neuron. One neuron has the ability to send messages to many others. So one presynaptic neuron could be sending messages to multiple postsynaptic neurons. Neuroregeneration. It's important to know that mature neurons are amitotic, meaning they do not divide. So the body does not have the ability to produce new neurons. The ones we have is all we have. If there is neural damage to the central nervous system, those neurons are usually incapable of self-repair. So if central nervous system neurons are damaged, they're pretty much permanently damaged. In the peripheral nervous system, there is some neuroregeneration possible. If the cell body remains intact, the damage can sometimes be repaired. So if there's damage to the axon, but the cell body is still okay, then that axon has a very good possibility of being repaired.